Imagine watching the man in charge of the nation's top law enforcement agency being forced, on live television, to answer one simple question, and realizing he can't. For 30 straight seconds, silence battles deflection. The room is tense, the lights harsh, and every word he chooses seems to dodge the truth just enough to keep the walls from caving in. This wasn't a heated debate. It was a slow, methodical unmasking. And the moment the words Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book hit the microphone, everything changed. At IT started when Adam Schiff asked a question so simple it could have been answered with one syllable. Did you ever fire or discipline anyone at the FBI because of their case assignments?
Your job depended on the removal of agents who worked on cases against the president.
No.
Did you ever tell anyone that?
No.
Okay. Did you ever tell anyone that you knew these summary firings you were undertaking were illegal, likely illegal, and that you would be sued and later deposed? Did you ever tell anyone that?
No firings at the FBI or terminations were done for anything other than justified
Did you ever
cause.
tell anyone that, Mr.
No,
Patel? Why don't you
no
answer my question?
terminations at the FBI were ever done in my tenure for anything other than failing
Did you ever
to
tell
uphold
anyone
their
that,
oath of
Mr. Patel? You
office
willing to
or
answer the
their-
question?
The FBI.
I guess
I
you're
have
not willing to
answered
answer the
it.
question. So let me move on. Let me
Repeatedly.
move on to the Epstein files. You said you're the most transparent FBI director in history, so I'm going to put you to the test. In 2024, you were asked by Glenn Beck about Epstein's Black Book. And you said, he asked, who has Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book? And you said, Black Book FBI. And he said, but who? That is, I mean theirs. And you said, oh, that's under the direct control of the director of the FBI. That's what you said. Was that true, Mr. Patel?
I'll rely on you quoting it accurately. I
Oh,
did
no,
that
no.
a couple
Was
of
it
years
true
ago.
what you represented to Mr. Beck and the president's supporters out there, or were you lying?
No,
Was it true that the Black Book, Epstein's Black Book, was in the possession of the FBI director?
The Black Book was in the possession of the FBI.
Okay, so now that you're the FBI director, you have possession of the Black Book, right?
That index has been released.
So you have Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book?
What is known as Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book has been released
Okay,
by us.
And you released it. And let me follow up on Senator Kennedy's question, because he asked you, and I'll be very precise here. You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself? And you said, himself, there's no credible information, none. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And Kennedy, the information we have, again, is limited. And Senator Kennedy said, the answer is no one. And you said, for the information we have. So is it your testimony today that in all the Epstein files, that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked no one to anyone but himself? Is that your testimony, Mr.
I never
Patel?
said Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic anyone else.
Did he traffic any young woman to someone other than himself? That was Mr. Kennedy's question,
And I
Senator Kennedy's
said
question.
the information that 3 administrations have had access to
I'm
have
asking
made
you-
determinations that there are no investigative leads that were credible to prosecute and investigate any others. I'm
Well,
specifically
I'm asking
stating
you whether
we
it's
were
your
working on.
testimony today.
Well, you just read
that
it, and I said it 10 minutes ago, so let the record reflect my
I
testimony.
just want to make sure there's no misunderstanding, because there are victims like Virginia Guifer who have testified otherwise, who have said otherwise, and you're telling the American people today that the Epstein list is a single name and it's Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we're to believe?
That's not what I'm saying. That's what you're saying, and
Well,
you
let
can
me-
say
let me
whatever
ask
you want.
Let me ask you this. When Todd Blanche went to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, she said, but did I think these guys were coming for that? I really don't. If you met Epstein, there's no way that this cast of characters, of which it's extraordinary, and some are in your cabinet, who you value as your co-workers, and you know would be with him if he was a creep or because they wanted sexual favors. A man wants sexual favors, he will find that. They didn't have to come to Epstein for that. And the next question Todd Blanche, the president's former criminal defense lawyer, asked is not who in the cabinet, who are you referring to? His question is, so when's the last time you think you were with Mr. Epstein when he got a massage? So let me ask you, Who are those cabinet members that Ghislaine Maxwell was referring to that, that were part of this cast of characters associated with Mr. Epstein? Who are they?
The Deputy Attorney General took the aggressive step that no one else did and interviewed Ms. Maxwell for
No, I'm
2
asking you,
days,
who are
and we released
who are
the
the cabinet
entirety
members?
of that
Who are the cabinet
transcript.
members?
I do not have that transcript in front of me. You're picking it piecemeal. The American
And-
public can read the entirety of
Let me ask you
that.
one last question, because you clearly won't tell us the cabinet members associated with Mr. Epstein. Let me ask you one last question. And that is, right after she gives this testimony in front of an FBI agent, among others, she's transferred to a minimum security prison not suitable for a sex offender like herself. Who made that decision and why?
The Bureau of Prisons.
The Bureau of Decisions made it in
Prisons.
the Bureau of Prisons decided on their own, without any consultation with Blanche or anyone else, that they were going to suddenly, after this interview, completely unrelated to this interview, completely unrelated to anything she said, move her to a prison not suitable for a sex offender. You want the American people to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
No. I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of
you're not in
inmates.
the weeds?
What I am
The
doing is
most-
protecting
the
this country,
most- the
providing
most
historic
significant
reform,
witness-
and
the most
combating the
significant witness,
weaponization of
the
intelligence
Epstein
by the likes
files
of you.
cover-up
And we have
gets
countlessly proven you to
from
be a
your
liar in
administration,
Russiagate, in
and you
January
call that
6th.
being
You are
in
the
the
biggest
weeds?
fraud to ever sit in the
This
United States
stinks to
Senate.
high
You are a
heaven.
disgrace to this
This stinks to high
institution
heaven.
and an utter
And
coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not
I'm
surprised
not
that you continue to
surprised
lie
that
from your
that
perch and put on a show
two of
so
you
you can go
have
raise money
well,
for your
and for good
charade.
reason.
You are a political buffoon at best.
Well, you can take an internet troll.
Take
and
it
make-
to
you
the
can take
bank
an
that the
internet-
FBI is
you
protecting
can
this
make an
country
internet troll,
and the state and
the
citizens
FBI
of the
director
California.
will
We
always
are
be
bringing
nothing more
historic
than an
reform.
internet
Historic.
troll. Point of
order. But all you care about is a child sex predator that was prosecuted by a prior administration, and the Obama Justice Department and the Biden Justice Department did squat. And what did President Trump do? Bring new charges courageously. And what have we done?
Chairman,
You said
take
I'm the
control
most
of this
transparent
situation.
FBI director in history.
Take control of this
33,000 pages of information to you. I challenge you to say anything credibly to the truth. Go ahead and run to the cameras where you want to go now.
Both of you be quiet. Before
Patel, seated like a man carrying 1,000 calculations, replied with lawyerly precision. No one at the FBI has been terminated for case assignments alone. Alone. That one word turned the hearing into a chess match. Schiff caught it instantly. Alone implies that maybe someone was fired, but not just because of their assignment. The congressman pressed again, faster this time. Patel's eyes narrowed. So were they terminated in part because of those cases? He didn't blink. Absolutely not, Patel snapped. But the energy in the room shifted. He'd left himself a door, a tiny one, and Schiff had just kicked it open. This wasn't just about personnel. It was about patterns. Because when an FBI director starts inserting legal qualifiers mid-answer, the public has reason to ask why. Schiff's insistence wasn't theater, it was accountability. You said alone, he pushed. Let's strip that word away. Did you terminate or discipline anyone, in whole or in part, because they worked on those investigations? Patel dodged again, leaning into bureaucratic language. FBI employees are only terminated for failing to uphold their oaths. The words sounded rehearsed. The room knew it. Schiff cut in sharply, refusing to let him escape into legal fog. That's not the question. Did you remove anyone because of those investigations? And again, no straight answer. Every few seconds, Patel shifted the goalposts. He accused Schiff of setting a trap. He insisted no one was punished unjustly. But each sentence made him sound more defensive, more political, less like the impartial public servant his office demands. When he was finally asked, "Did you tell anyone at the FBI that people who worked on those cases would be removed?" Patel's face hardened. "People are not removed for case assignments," he repeated. Schiff leaned closer. "That's not what I asked." The tension snapped. Patel said, "I would never tell anyone that." Schiff fired back. "Then anyone who claims you did would be lying. Is that your testimony?" Patel's jaw tightened. Anyone can say whatever they want, he muttered. The words landed like a dare. That's when Schiff dropped the phrase that changed the entire hearing. Let me move on to the Epstein files. The room froze. The public had heard rumors for months about files, names, and who had them. But this was the first time the question was asked directly to the FBI director himself. Schiff reminded Patel of a 2024 interview with Glenn Beck. On that show, Patel was asked who possessed Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book. He answered, Black Book FBI. When pressed, Patel said, that's under the direct control of the director of the FBI. So Schiff asked the obvious. Was that true? Patel hesitated, staring down at his notes. The Black Book was in the possession of the FBI, he finally said. Schiff seized on it. So now that you're the FBI director, you have it? Patel looked up. That index has been released. Schiff pushed again. So you have Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book? Patel repeated, what is known as Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book has been released. Released. Another word that sounded clear on paper, but meant almost nothing in practice. Because if something's released, but nearly every page is blacked out, does the public really know anything at all? That single exchange, the FBI director confirming that the Bureau holds the Black Book, set off a storm online. But the real story isn't the word Black Book. It's what it reveals about power, secrecy, and accountability. Schiff's questioning forced Patel into a corner, and his evasions exposed something bigger. How language itself is used to shield truth. By saying alone, by saying released, Patel wasn't lying directly. He was constructing barriers. Words that sound transparent, but leave the listener holding fog. Let's break that down. When Patel said no one was fired for case assignments alone, it technically means someone could have been fired partly because of those assignments, as long as another reason was added. It's a loophole that allows plausible deniability without committing perjury. This is how bureaucratic defense works. And it's why oversight exists, to cut through carefully engineered language. Schiff's persistence wasn't about ego. It was about the system. If agents believe their political cases could cost them their careers, they'll hesitate to volunteer for them. The chilling effect is real. Imagine being an agent assigned to a politically sensitive case, knowing that if you make one wrong move, your career might be over. That fear destroys independence. It undermines justice. And in this hearing, you could feel that fear ripple through every pause, every word Patel refused to say. Then came the pivot. Epstein. Patel's earlier remarks about possession of the Black Book resurfaced at the worst possible time. On one side, he claimed transparency. On the other, his own language suggested secrecy. He said the index had been released. But an index isn't evidence. It's a table of contents. A name on a list doesn't prove guilt. Investigators need corroboration, records, witness statements, financial trails. Without them, all you have is speculation. And that's where the danger lies, between what's real and what's rumored. For years, survivors have pleaded for transparency, not gossip. They want to know what the Bureau did, who was investigated, and why some leads seem to have vanished. If Patel's claim of 33,000 pages released was true, the next question is, how much of that information actually revealed anything? Because if most of those pages are sealed, redacted, or blacked out entirely, it's not transparency. It's theater. Schiff understood that. That's why he didn't just ask about files. He asked about decisions, who made them, who approved transfers, and who knew what when. When he raised Ghislaine Maxwell's transfer to a lower security prison right after she cooperated with investigators, the room shifted again. It wasn't accusation, it was incredulity. Why? He asked. Would someone be moved immediately after cooperation? Patel replied that those decisions are made by the Bureau of Prisons, not the FBI. Maybe true, but incomplete. Because any serious coordination between agencies leaves a paper trail. Schiff wasn't convinced, and neither were millions watching. What happened next was more revealing than any classified file. Patel, once composed, began to lash out. He accused Schiff of grandstanding. He called him a liar. He called Congress a disgrace. The decorum dissolved. And in that moment, the symbolism was impossible to ignore. The man tasked with upholding accountability was attacking the very process meant to ensure it. The irony was thick. For months, Patel had branded himself as the most transparent FBI director in history. He said he'd released thousands of documents. He'd framed quantity as virtue. But in this hearing, transparency wasn't about numbers. It was about honesty. Real transparency doesn't hide behind phrasing. It doesn't dodge. It doesn't belittle. It clarifies. And when the director of the FBI can't answer yes or no to questions about political interference, the audience understands more from the silence than the speech, because this isn't just about one hearing. It's about a pattern that defines how power protects itself. Bureaucracies hide behind legalese. Agencies claim secrecy for national security. Leaders invoke ongoing investigations as shields. And in that fog, the truth suffocates. What makes this moment stand out is how visible the avoidance was. You could feel the discomfort in the room, see the tightening of Patel's jaw, hear the edge in Schiff's tone. It wasn't just politics, it was principle. Because oversight is supposed to be uncomfortable. That's its purpose. The FBI, the DOJ, every institution that wields power owes its legitimacy to accountability. And when accountability is replaced with aggression, the public trust erodes. This is why hearings like this matter. They force the hidden gears of government into the light. They remind us that no agency, no director, no black book is beyond scrutiny. The public deserves clarity, not selective transparency, not edited truths. Clarity. What happens next depends on whether Congress follows through. There's already talk of independent inspector general reviews into personnel decisions. There are calls to audit the handling of Epstein-related materials and to demand that any withheld pages be justified, not hidden by default. There's growing pressure to protect whistleblowers who've said they faced retaliation for speaking out. These aren't partisan demands. They're structural ones. Because justice doesn't belong to one side. It belongs to everyone who believes the system should function fairly. For victims and survivors, this isn't abstract. Every time transparency is delayed, justice is delayed. Every time accountability is dodged, trauma deepens. And for agents who dedicate their careers to integrity, watching leadership twist language instead of telling the truth is devastating. When Patel called Schiff a liar, he wasn't just attacking a person. He was attacking the very principle of oversight. Because oversight, by definition, questions power. It demands answers even when the answers are uncomfortable. And every time that principle is dismissed, democracy weakens just a little bit more. The hearing may have ended, but the questions didn't. Who really controls the files? What parts of the Black Book are truly public? Were any agents punished for doing their jobs? These aren't conspiracy questions, they're civic ones. And the more power resists those answers, the louder the demand for them will grow. In the end, this story isn't about one director, one congressman, or one case. It's about the delicate balance between secrecy and accountability, the difference between protecting investigations and hiding mistakes, between transparency that informs and transparency that performs. What viewers saw wasn't just political theater. It was a glimpse into how truth struggles to breathe in institutions built to contain it as the dust settles. Remember this. Power always prefers silence. But silence only wins if we stop asking questions. If you believe truth still matters, if you believe oversight should mean something, don't just watch. Share this video, hit subscribe, and help shine light where the powerful still hope no one's looking. Because the story isn't over. Not even close.